Every single morning, millions of people over 65 sit down to what they genuinely believe is a healthy breakfast. They pour a glass of orange juice. They reach for the whole grain cereal or the low-fat yogurt. They toast a slice of what the label calls heart-healthy bread. And they eat all of it, feeling good about themselves, feeling responsible, feeling like they are doing the right thing for their body and their brain. What they do not know, and what nobody has ever sat them down and told them clearly, is that several of the most common breakfast foods eaten by seniors in America today are actively causing inflammation inside the brain. Not might be, not possibly, are, right now, every morning, silently. And that inflammation is one of the most well-documented drivers of memory loss, mental fog, and accelerated cognitive decline in adults over 65. Stay with me through this entire video, because what I am going to share with you today is going to permanently change the way you look at your breakfast table. By the time we reach the end, you are going to know exactly which 5 breakfast foods are doing the most damage to the aging brain, why each one triggers the specific kind of internal fire that destroys brain cells over time, and what you can replace them with starting tomorrow morning to begin cooling that inflammation down and actually feeding your brain what it needs to stay sharp. I want to be honest with you from the start. Some of the foods on this list are going to surprise you. Some of them are foods you have been told for years are good for you. That is exactly why this conversation needs to happen. So please, do not click away. The information in this video could genuinely be the most important thing you do for your brain health all year. Let me start by making sure you understand the true scale of what brain inflammation is doing to the older population in this country, because the numbers are staggering, and most people have no idea. A study published in the journal Neurology found that older adults with the highest levels of inflammatory markers in their blood had cognitive decline rates nearly 40% faster than those with the lowest levels. 40% faster. That is not a marginal difference. That is the difference between staying sharp into your 80s and struggling to remember your grandchildren's birthdays in your early 70s. And according to data from the Centers for Disease Control, approximately 60% of American adults over 65 have at least 2 chronic conditions that are directly linked to systemic inflammation, meaning the fire is already burning in most older bodies, whether they feel it or not. But here is the part of the story that almost nobody is telling. A landmark analysis published in the journal Nutritional Neuroscience concluded that dietary choices, specifically what you eat and when you eat it, account for a measurable and significant portion of the inflammatory load in the brains of older adults. If you are over 60, what you put in your mouth at breakfast is not a neutral act. It is either cooling the fire in your brain or feeding it. And for too many people, every single morning, it is feeding it. So let us get into the 5 foods, because you came here for specifics, and I am going to give them to you. The first food on this list is one that will genuinely shock most people because it has been marketed as a health food for decades, and that food is commercial fruit juice. Orange juice, apple juice, grape juice, any of the bottled or carton juices that line the shelves of every grocery store in America. Now, before you push back, I want to be very precise about why this is a problem specifically for the aging brain. When fruit is whole, the sugar inside it is bound up with fiber, which slows how quickly that sugar enters the bloodstream. When you juice the fruit, you strip away essentially all of that fiber, and what you are left with is a concentrated hit of sugar that enters the blood as fast as a soft drink. In a healthy young body, this spike is managed relatively efficiently. In a body over 65, the cells have become less responsive to the hormone that manages blood sugar, and the result is a sharp spike followed by a sharp crash. And here is the connection that most people have never been told. Every significant blood sugar spike triggers an inflammatory response inside the body, including inside the brain. Researchers at the University of California found that repeated daily blood sugar spikes were directly associated with higher levels of brain inflammation markers and faster rates of hippocampal shrinkage in older adults. The hippocampus is the brain's memory center, and you may be spiking it first thing every single morning with a glass of juice that you believe is healthy. But that is not the worst part. The second food is one that has been sitting on breakfast tables across America for generations, and it is one of the most heavily advertised so-called health products in the entire food industry. That food is commercial breakfast cereal, including many of the varieties that carry labels saying things like heart healthy, high fiber, or made with whole grain. The warning here is not about the grain itself in every case. The warning is about what food manufacturers do to that grain before it reaches your bowl. The processing required to turn grain into those crispy, shelf-stable flakes and shapes destroys most of the nutritional value and creates a product that behaves almost identically to pure sugar in the bloodstream. Many popular breakfast cereals, including ones specifically marketed to older adults for heart health, have a glycemic index higher than white bread. That means they spike blood sugar faster than a slice of plain white toast. And layered on top of the sugar problem is the fact that most commercial cereals contain refined vegetable oils, artificial preservatives, and synthetic additives that research has shown contribute independently to gut inflammation. And this is critical, because the gut and the brain are directly connected through a network of nerves and chemical signals. And when inflammation is raging in the gut, it does not stay in the gut. It signals the brain, and the brain responds by activating its own inflammatory processes. Slowly, silently, every single morning. The fifth food is the one that I suspect will generate the most debate, and I want to be very careful and very specific here, because the food itself is not inherently the enemy. The problem is the form in which most people consume it every morning. That food is bread, specifically the commercially produced sliced bread that most households in America buy every week, including many of the varieties labeled as whole wheat, multigrain, or enriched. Here is what your doctor is not telling you about commercial bread. The overwhelming majority of bread sold in American supermarkets, regardless of what the front of the package says, is made with highly refined flour that has had most of its natural fiber and nutritional content removed during processing. It is then combined with vegetable shortening or industrial seed oils, preservatives to extend shelf life, dough conditioners, and in many cases, added sugars. The result is a product that spikes blood sugar rapidly, delivers a significant dose of inflammatory seed oils directly into the body, and contributes essentially nothing in terms of the fiber, minerals, and slow-burning fuel that the aging brain actually needs from a morning meal. And the shocking revealed truth about industrial seed oils, such as soybean oil, corn oil, and canola oil, which appear in the ingredient lists of most commercial breads, is that these oils are extraordinarily high in a type of fat called omega-6 fatty acid. Your brain needs a careful balance of omega-6 and omega-3 fats to function properly and control inflammation. The modern American diet has pushed that ratio wildly out of balance, and the brain pays the price in chronic, low-grade inflammation that builds slowly and silently over years until it begins to show up as memory problems, mental fatigue, and cognitive decline. Now let us talk about what you replace these 5 foods with, because removing something without a clear alternative is not a complete answer, and you deserve a complete answer. Instead of fruit juice, eat the whole fruit. A whole orange, a handful of berries, half a grapefruit. The fiber changes everything about how the sugar behaves in your blood and in your brain. Instead of commercial breakfast cereal, switch to steel-cut oats or plain rolled oats cooked from scratch and topped with a handful of walnuts, some blueberries, and a drizzle of raw honey if you want sweetness. This combination gives your brain slow, steady fuel, powerful antioxidants, and omega-3 fats from the walnuts that actively cool inflammation rather than feeding it. This is a breakthrough swap that takes about 10 minutes and costs less than the cereal you are replacing. Instead of low-fat flavored yogurt, choose plain, full-fat Greek yogurt and add your own toppings. Fresh berries, a sprinkle of ground flaxseed, a small amount of raw honey. You get the genuine probiotic benefit that supports your gut-brain connection without the sugar load that was canceling out all of that benefit in the flavored versions. Instead of flavored instant oatmeal packets, the solution is simply to make plain oats and control your own additions. Steel-cut oats take about 20 minutes on the stove, but you can make a large batch at the start of the week and reheat portions every morning. They have a much lower blood sugar impact than instant oats, and they keep you feeling full and mentally clear for hours. And instead of commercial sliced bread, look for genuine sourdough bread made with whole grain flour and a short, recognizable ingredient list. Or look for breads made exclusively with almond flour or coconut flour if you want to go even further in reducing the blood sugar impact. Real sourdough made through traditional fermentation has a dramatically different effect on blood sugar than commercial bread, because the fermentation process partially breaks down the starches and creates acids that slow digestion significantly. The secret that ties all of this together is straightforward and powerful. The aging brain is exquisitely sensitive to the quality of fuel it receives first thing in the morning. After a night of fasting during sleep, your brain wakes up in a state of readiness for whatever you are about to give it. If you give it a blood sugar spike, inflammatory oils, and a gut disruption, it spends the rest of the morning managing that damage instead of running cleanly and sharply. If you give it slow fuel, anti-inflammatory fats, and real fiber, it has everything it needs to function at its best. You are not just choosing breakfast. Every single morning, you are choosing the chemical environment your brain has to live in for the next several hours. That choice, made consistently over months and years, is one of the most powerful factors shaping whether your memory stays sharp or slowly begins to fade. You have more control over this than anyone has ever told you. That is the message I most want you to leave with today. If this video opened your eyes to something that was sitting on your breakfast table every morning without you realizing what it was doing, please take a moment right now to share it with someone you love who is over 60. You could be giving them back years of mental clarity they were about to lose without ever knowing why. And if you want to keep getting this kind of honest, research-based, practical information about protecting your brain as you age, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Your brain built your entire life. It is worth fighting for every single morning.